Welcome to the Haddonfield Horrors Podcast, where we review horror movies and horror movie franchises. I'm your host, Mark, the horror movie fanboy,
And I'm Kennedy, the horror movie noob.
and today we will not be reviewing a horror movie. We will be reviewing two horror movies, kind of pitting them together, like Freddy versus Jason style, but not. But they're the same movie and the same franchise, doing the same exact thing. It's who did it better? The Halloween edition, Halloween H20 versus Halloween 2018. Kennedy, can you explain the rules?
Yeah, so for this episode, we're looking into three categories of who did it better, breaking down Laurie's trauma, the effect on her kid, connection with Michael in both, and does the movie feel earned?
So where do you want to start?
I guess,
Laurie's trauma, the kid.
yeah, I guess we could start with Laurie's trauma because if that's something that you really made a good point of. Must have been in the in the 2018 episode. Uh, so I don't know if you want to start with that.
Because Laurie's trauma actually connects to the last part of like, does the movie feel earned? Because in order to believe her trauma, whether or not you believe her trauma and believe what she's going through, validates if the movie is needed. Because in H2O, it like her trauma was believable. She was erratic. She was drinking. She was nervous. She didn't want to celebrate Halloween. She wanted to keep her son close to her because not only did this random guy murder three or four of her friends on Halloween night and tried to kill her, he then stalked her when she went to the hospital to recover, murdered everyone there who tried to help her, and also surprised it's her brother. So knowing that your murderous brother killed your sister who you don't have any memory of, killed your friends, killed the hospital staff, tried to kill you, and is still alive and potentially looking for you, it all felt it felt earned. It felt like her trauma is believable. She has every right to be fucked up.
No, yeah, I completely agree with everything you just said because it just it doesn't it doesn't feel right watching these movies without that connection. And I'm referring to 2018 and now Halloween Kills. I'm still excited for those films, of course, but like we're just going off of one movie. Like who thought that was a good idea? And I actually watched one horror movie uh person on YouTube and they were getting a little bit elitist, like, oh, well, this is the superior timeline, the one where uh, Michael doesn't. This isn't really a spoiler, but in one of the teasers for Halloween Kills, Laurie just mentions like, "Oh, Michael, he's coming for me," and then it says like the survivors of Michael Myers, but it was just
But
that one
why
night.
is he coming for her? They have no connection. And that's because for me, in 2018, he wasn't looking for her. She was looking for him because she's traumatized from her high school friends being killed and her almost being killed. But he wasn't looking for her. And that like infamous scene where they see each other for the first where you think they see each other for the first time when he's like
Mhm.
in the room, she's on the street. I don't even think he knew who the fuck she was. That was just some old bitch shooting at him. And when he got to her house, it was by happenstance. He was driven there and he was killing people, and that was the next house, the closest house to him. He was gonna go kill who was ever in there. I don't even think he knew who the fuck she was the entire time they were fighting. So it didn't feel like there was nothing there. He wasn't looking for you, Lori. You were looking for him. You made yourself a target for no fucking reason. But in H2O, he went to Loomis's house and killed the nurse to look for his sister, and then he tracked his sister down because somehow he knew she had a kid and her kid was now 17.
What you interestingly mentioned that he didn't do that until after he like passed away, which we assume was from like natural causes, right? So there's that little bit of like respect we theorize about Michael having for Dr. Loomis.
Yeah, it
Or,
gave me Thor and his sister and dad vibes. I think I mentioned that in the podcast too.
mm. Yeah, I'm just gonna say real quick, don't watch any of the teasers because man, they're giving away way too much.
I haven't seen. I saw the first like I saw the first teaser when they were in the back of the truck and she heard it. She heard the sirens. She was like, "No, don't go, don't go." That's the only teaser I've seen.
Mm.
I saw the first few seconds of the first trailer, and after I saw the fireman like stick his hand down, that's when I cut it. I was like, "Nope, it's going to tell me too
Oh
much. I
yeah.
can't
No,
participate."
yeah, I gotta avoid those because like one trailer was okay, or like the second. I know that you have to like release multiple trailers to build up hype, but I would have thought that the teasers would have been like short clips from like the bigger trailer, and like that's it. But no, they're like showing deaths and shit already. I'm like, oh, no, why do I know this?
Yeah, and because
So,
I do all the promotional stuff for Instagram, and I saw like a photo, and I was like, ah, damn. So
ah,
now I've been avoiding all promotional materials. So
yeah.
I
So
won't.
just to avoid all that, I'm still really excited for Halloween Kills. Like even if that connection isn't there anymore,
I mean,
even
I'm more
though
excited because I can watch it at my house.
that's true, that's even better. That's even better. Yeah, that it's on Peacock. Uh, for all you
Wait,
intro.
does Peacock have like a watch party format?
No, I have no idea.
I'll look into that.
I'm not too sure. But yeah, just kind of going back to Laurie's trauma. Like I don't know. I would have loved for this movie to have been a continuation of like H2O. I don't care how you explain Michael like surviving the head chop. I know technically Resurrection is a sequel to H2O, but we're not going to mention that. That that's not part of my canon.
I mean, the part of the series is that they ignore episodes in the series all the time. So they can ignore Resurrection and just pick
Yeah,
up like
like this one, right? Like it's ignoring every single movie after the first one. Uh, if it was after H2O and like Laurie finds out like that 20 years later after that that she actually killed someone else. Like this sort of like this Lori would actually make so much more sense now because not only does she have the guilt of surviving Michael like 5 times, but like that she actually like killed someone else on accident, dude.
that. See, that would be cool because no one knows what he looks like under the mask,
Hmm.
and so he could have just walked away, slinked away, and they could have explained it somehow that it was a crazy patient from the Smith Gross Sanitarium. They could explain it away. They didn't have to ignore the three best movies in the entire franchise.
Exactly.
And it gives this movie like no wait. This movie doesn't. I'm gonna jump ahead. This movie doesn't feel earned. It's not earned. It's just here.
I mean, I'm happy that it exists, but it certainly isn't like my favorite timeline or anything. Like, I assume some people really yeah, I assume some people like prefer like the Halloween one, Halloween 2018 timeline, and then like there's people that like one, two, 4, 5, and 6, kind of like the Jamie timeline. I guess there's a little bit for everybody, but for me, it will always be 1, 2, and like H2O. So I'm this isn't like the main headcanon for me. So, uh, but yeah, like you said, it just doesn't feel earned. But and it sucks because there's like all these cameos, so it would have been like a nice way to bring things full circle after the events of H2O, and like Lori reconnects with Lindsay and Tommy, and Like she talks to them about how she survived the hospital. I don't know, man. It could have been so much better.
It would have made her trauma more believable. Because if you go based off just the first one, they had like a minor encounter that probably lasted no more than 30, 40 minutes tops before Loomis came and saved her. And then he was locked up for 40 years after that. He was shot, fell off the balcony, captured, and was in lockup for 40 years. A no threat, no danger to anyone, dormant for 40 years. But somehow this woman is completely traumatized and has fear of him, even though he's been locked up since the night it happened.
Exactly.
But if you took it based off, because no one knows what he looks like. So if you took it that okay, somehow he switched this same stupid explanation that he crushed the guy's larynx, and for 20 years they thought that he was dead. So now you come forward and you have John, his wife, and their daughter. So you can still have Allison, but it can be John's daughter, not whoever the hell Judy Greer's character is. So you can
Karen.
still, oh yeah, Kara. So you could still have a theory of that, and if you wanted, you could have killed John and killed his wife and just kept Allison and Lori, so you still have that female Strode final battle. Or they could have been trying to like John's dying, so they're trying to kill Michael so they can get Johnson safety. It could have still worked. In the revelation, like, oh shit, I didn't kill my brother, I killed some random guy. You could have like watched her go through this throughout the movie.
Yeah.
And then they could have had creepy Tommy. We're not acknowledging that curse happened, but you can still have like he's been tracking Michael since the 20th anniversary, and he's the one who's like, I think Michael's alive. I think he's coming back for you. Now that you have a 17-year-old daughter, keep it in a. He came when John turned 17. Now Allison's turning 17. Now he's gonna come back for another chance.
Oh snap! Literally better like storytelling than we're actually getting. So yeah, I guess I guess we I think we can move on from the trauma portion. I think we both agree that H2O felt a lot more earned because he told the story of H2O, so there's more going on there rather than the 2018 uh, where we just kind of ignore some major events and act like nothing happened. But now we feel like the story suffers because of it. Uh, so uh, so we're moving on to like what do we think of Allison versus Josh
No,
Hartnett?
what do we think of Karen versus Josh Hartnett?
Oh Lord.
Well, I guess we can put Karen and Allison together versus Josh Hartnett,
Yes, we have to. Oh,
and how
Karen.
and how and
Maybe
how the and
Josh
how the
Hartnett
trauma
is.
affects them.
Yeah, yeah. I guess Josh Hartnett and Karen. Oh, okay. In terms of being interesting, like I don't like. I'm not a huge fan of like of his character in H2O, but he was a lot more involved in that movie than Karen was. uh, do we both agree that Josh Hartnett was the better child of Laurie
Yes,
than Karen?
because you with Karen, it was all like exposition. She's explaining to you, but they have a difficult relationship. She's explaining to you that her childhood was horrible. She's telling you that she had to be taken away because it was too much. She's explaining to you that her mom's drinking bothered her. And you get like a few scenes of her explaining this, like terrible line reading. But with Josh Hartnett, with John Tate, you actually see their like combative like relationship. You see him like going back and forth. Like you see all the trauma between their interaction because they're still together and he's still having to deal with growing up with his crazy mom versus seeing an adult who's like somewhat traumatized. And she was taken away from Lori when she was like 10. So she didn't grow up with Lori. But John grew up with Lori. And he also had a chance to, like, this guy is crazy. He's gone. He's dead. Whatever, whatever, whatever. And then boom, he's not only back, but he murdered John's friends, tried to kill John's girlfriend, and tried to kill John. With Karen, she didn't see Michael until he was at the house because he was fighting Lori. But Michael went after John absent Lori because John was the target. Karen was just wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah.
And
And like
and
going back.
Karen was just mean to Lori. With John, I kind of get it. He's a teenager. He wants to be a teenager. With Karen, I'm like, you're a mother. Like, overprotective. You have to protect your kid at any cost. So I feel like you should have more understanding. Uh, Whatever.
No, yeah, which again, like you mentioned that Karen, like her background, she had like arms training. Lori was like that traumatized that she trained her how to use guns and stuff, which was really cool at the end. I'm not gonna lie for the final battle, but still, does it make that much sense? Like even in H2O, like Lori still made an effort to like re-enter society, even though she went through double the trauma than the one from 2018 did. And like you said, Josh Hartnett, he was a young dude that by the end really came around and believed his mom because Michael had in fact returned. Um, I mean, I got nothing against Judy Greer. And I look forward to seeing more of her in Halloween Kills, but I do think that Josh Hartnett was the better one. He was a lot more involved in 2018. He was like, would you say that he was the new protagonist, or is that a little bit too far to say?
He was a new. If they were smart and continued the story the right way, and after Michael killed Lori, they if they were smart, they would have went for John. I say they were setting him up to be the new protagonist.
Yeah. Hmm. I don't even know where to go from here. Uh.
Neither did the 2018 movie. I feel like it was trying to strip away all the extra fat, but it had also cut off a lot of the meat of the franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, it was just like, okay, when H2O decided we're going to ignore 3, 4, 5, and 6, that made sense because Lori wasn't in 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. Yeah, it had Jamie, it had Dr. Loomis, but it didn't have Lori. Those movies are not part of Laurie Strode's story. So ignoring all three of those and only focusing on 1 and 2 made sense because in H2O you have Laurie back. Why not ignore Resurrection and have a direct sequel to H2O 20 years later?
With an old Josh Hartnett, that would have been awesome.
Yes. And you could have still had
And you
Allison,
could still had
which is
Allison
my.
as her daughter. Yeah.
Yeah, like I do like Allison more than Karen. I don't like her more than
Oh yeah.
um
Mhm.
I don't like her more than John, but I do like her more than Karen. I feel like she can tell her grandmother has some PTSD and has some issues, and she's trying to be comforting and trying to be there for her grandmother, but also trying to like toe the line of like my mama's want me around, but she keeps trying, and she doesn't write her grandmother off. And like John, she experiences Michael Myers without Laurie being around, so she now has her own story with it. And he also murdered two of her friends and her dad. So like John, he's Michael's also taking away people that she cared about.
Yeah.
I mean, Yeah, Karen lost her husband, but she only lost her husband. Addison lost her dad, her best friend, and her best friend's boyfriend, who I think was also her friend, and then she also lost her other friend. She lost four people, just like Lori lost four people, just like John lost two people. So Karen was just there, and
Yeah, she is. Um, kind of almost didn't make sense to have her to begin with.
did not.
Maybe
Karen being there was not needed at all. It was.
how different do you think the story would have been if maybe like Karen died in some car accident, so she had to like be the mother to Allison? You think that would have been a little bit more interesting?
It would have.
Do you think
I
that would have
probably would have.
explained better the character that Lori is in 2018?
Mm-hmm.
Like that
Because
depressed that.
she'd be overly protective of not just people but everything when it came to Allison.
Yeah, I definitely would have liked that. To the
I,
audience, as
I
you can
would.
tell, we aren't huge fans of this
We don't
timeline.
enjoy. We don't enjoy 2018. I mean, it's a watchable movie.
Critically, it's not bad at all.
It's not bad. It's just when you're a fan of the overall like franchise, you're like something's missing.
Yeah,
And it's like you took a 40-year continuity and was like, yeah, we're not gonna have you guys be siblings anymore because it doesn't make sense to us.
I can understand why people were angry, but it only hit me like this year or like last year. Like I said, it was the more that I was watching those movies, the more that I was disliking them. Yeah,
Yeah, and I feel like I didn't like it off the bat because I was like, wait, they're not gonna be siblings anymore. Why would you erase 40 years of pop culture fact? Michael Myers and Laurie Strode are siblings. That has been a fact of life for the past 40 years, and now they're not.
yeah,
And it just I feel like they had a lot of missteps. So much they did wrong, and you just I don't enjoy it. Wasn't a good move.
yeah. It just wasn't. But even if you didn't, even if it wasn't a sequel to H2O, it still would have been better if it was a sequel to Halloween 2.
It would still feel earned, and you could still do great things.
Yeah.
And you could have kept Karen and Allison still, but with the added like, oh shit, my crazy uncle who I've never met is back. Oh shit, my crazy great uncle's here. And you could also throw in that the ambulance guy was Karen's dad.
Yeah. I guess where do we go from here?
I think well, the connection between Michael and Lori. In 2018, there is no connection. They keep meeting each other on due to happenstance.
Which is bad
Well,
writing, by the way.
with Michael, it's happenstance. With Lori, she's looking for Michael for no apparent reason. He's
He
been locked up for He's locked up for 40 years. Why the fuck are you watching his prison transfer? You had no reason to believe that he was going to break out. He's been an obedient, dormant prisoner for 40 years.
he must have been like,
And
damn,
he,
you this crazy bitch.
yeah, and he didn't even initiate the breakout. Like, Dr. Sartain caused the bus crash,
Yeah.
which caused Michael to break out. Michael was just dormant, going with the fucking flow. You had no reason to be scared of him.
Yeah.
You were just there. And then, only reason you saw Michael in the window because you were tracking him.
Mhm.
Only reason why Michael came to your house is because he was hit by a car and Sartain drove him to your house. He wasn't looking for you. He wanted nothing to do with you. He was just having a jolly good time murdering people. But with H2O, He was looking for her. He wanted to finish his sister off and also kill his nephew. The family connection. I gotta get this bitch. She got away 20 years ago. And now I'm coming to finish my sister. Killed one sister, gotta kill the other one. Gotta kill my nephew.
Exactly. Dude, like, yeah, I mean, it's just so much more interesting. Like, I don't even know what to say anymore. Because,
Does it feel earned?
what?
Does H2O or 2018, do they feel earned?
Definitely. I mean, maybe you have an issue with, like, maybe they could have, in H2O, they could have done a little better with, like, his body being more damaged because, he would have had to have survived the fire after the second one. Um, so yeah, because he does have like too much of a clean appearance to him. Like he's never gotten injured or anything before, and he has his eyes back. Um, so like you might ask, well, how did you like conjure new eyes again? Um, but other than that, like it was 20 years later. Like I said before, I think it must have been in that episode. Like I saw people in the comments because I must have come across like the end, like a little clip of the end of H2O on YouTube, and people were saying like, yeah, when Lori chopped his head off, um, it was like the whole audience clapped. Which, by the way, okay, so I'm gonna say this right after when 2018 came out, no one knew if we were gonna have a sequel, right? Which was why they kind of ended it like weirdly. Like, don't you think that that Michael's death in H2O was so much more satisfying than the one in 2018? Which,
It was. It was because no one knew that there was going to be a sequel because there were no talks of a sequel. I mean,
yeah,
yes, the studio and the actors all knew there was going to be a sequel, but they kept that shit under lock and key. And they presented H2O as this is the last movie of the franchise. We're tying in a bow. And we're going to keep all sequel talk quiet for at least a year after.
hmm
So for a year and a half after, there was no mention of a movie. She chopped off his head, signaling the end of the Halloween franchise in that form. So I don't, but with 2018, they did too many callbacks. So the ending with him breathing was a callback. But I'm like, how can you end it with him breathing heavily when he's in a fucking burning house
yeah,
and he probably can barely breathe to begin with?
that's true.
But that's just me. Like I don't know.
Like we had already saw that death in Halloween 2, like a burning building sort of death, and H2O it just felt so earned. It was like yes, after two movies of getting chased by this guy, and I guess three movies after H2O, and like the definitive kill of her just like cutting his head off. Not knowing that we were gonna get any more sequels, unfortunately, because Resurrection is horrible. But like, if you just left it there, it was like, yes, the conclusion to the Laurie Strode trilogy is complete. Like Return of the Jedi, like it's over, it's done, and it couldn't have ended any way better. But like H2O, it was a similar atmosphere where everyone was kind of saying like, yeah, this is the only movie we're making. We're not making a sequel to Halloween 2018. This is going to be the only definitive one. And the building death was just a little bit lackluster because it's like, well, it's exactly like H2O. Why even make this movie if you were going to kill him the same way that you did in H2O? I mean, not H2O, Halloween 2. Um, so obviously, like that we did have a sequel. I guess we only had a sequel after like they did like really really well in the box office. I assume that if it would have bombed, that maybe they wouldn't have made a sequel to it. That's why they kind of have like a semi conclusive, vague ending where it's like, yeah, he might have died in the fire, or maybe he didn't.
They had already planned a sequel. They were just waiting for uh, the box office returns. There was already plans. They were just lying in wait to see if they can go forward with them.
I wonder if it would have bombed, like if they would have gone into a different direction, because at the end of 2018,
I
when
don't think that
it
was.
gets a close up to Allison holding the knife. So I wonder if like maybe if it didn't do as well, maybe they would have said like, well, people don't want to see Michael
I don't
Myers
think there was
anymore.
any. I don't think there was any fear of that. I don't think that was ever a doubt that it wouldn't do well. I mean,
Ah, well, it is
well,
a Blumhouse movie, so in terms of like
not just that.
making
Like
it cheap and like making a decent return, I guess is pretty
not
easy for
not
them.
not just that, but slasher genre fans, we haven't had that many movies in the recent like couple years,
Hmm.
especially from like the big ones. I mean, after the whole remake failure of like the aughts, the 2000s, slasher movies were kind of like taboo. They went away. I mean, the remakes of Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Friday the 13th didn't kick off this brand new craze of like movies. They had when Halloween case they had a reboot that was successful and then followed up with a sequel that was trash, and we hadn't had a movie for a little under 10 years. It had
Hmm.
been like 9 years between Halloween 2009 and Halloween 2018. So Halloween fans were ready for this. And the fact that Laurie Strode was back, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, there was no way the box office wasn't going to be amazing.
Yeah, that's a
People
good
were going
point.
to,
Yeah.
like, even when the movie was bad, and a lot of us believe it is bad, people still were going to go watch it once and then watch it again because it's the return of Michael and Jamie Lee. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's bad, but I do think I was a little overhyped for it. Like I remember in the theater just like telling myself that was really good, right? That had to be really good because it's not
that's what I thought. That's what was for me. This was for us. This is our first Halloween we got to see in theaters because I wasn't old enough in '07 to go to the theater because
yeah.
age restriction. You got to be over 13. In 2009, I had already seen the trailers and I saw the weird fucking horse, and I was like, I'm gonna just wait until this is on like HBO or
Oh
like
god, those movies are
Cinemax
actually
or
horrible.
Stars. So I was like, but no, I won't say too much. We do plan on covering not just the Halloween remakes, but all remakes of the
Hmm.
big slasher movies. But I didn't go see that one in theaters, so this was the first time I was able to see a Halloween movie in theaters for the first time. So I was hyped for that in experience, and the theater experience would trick you into thinking it was a good movie because of the atmosphere and the other people who are also slasher fans. Everyone's there because they love horror movies. So all that plus the movie, I was like, I think I enjoyed this. This is too much harsh criticism.
Yeah.
And then when we started the podcast, I was like, I actually haven't seen this movie since it came out. Like the Halloween of 2019, I saw every Halloween movie, but I stopped at Halloween 2007. I didn't go back to watch Halloween 209. I didn't watch this one. And then for 2020, I did the same exact shit. I didn't watch it again for the second time until we did this podcast. And to be honest, I didn't even actually watch it. I watched the dead meat kill count because he went through the whole movie, and I was like, "Fuck it, I
Yeah, I
got."
love Dead Me.
I love that guy too. Yeah, but this movie doesn't feel earned. It feels like something's missing, and you feel that through the entire time. And they want us to have these like deep connections, but it's like if we're only going based off that first movie, there are no connections.
It's missing the lore. That's what it's
Yes,
missing.
it's like saying Luke and Leia aren't siblings and Darth Vader isn't their father. After like 40 years of us knowing this, and it's like, what the fuck are we supposed to do with this?
Yeah, it's like remaking like Return of the Jedi like 20 like 50 years later and like removing that plot element from the story.
When that's the driving plot for the entire series going forward. Once you find out that the person who's supposed to bring balance to the Force, Luke, and the big bad of the Force, Darth Vader, are father and son, that's the driving force for the entire series going forward.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason we have the prequel. We want to see how Luke's father went from being this good Jedi to Darth Vader. That's what the prequels are about. And they end the prequels with the birth of Luke and Leia, and then to go to the
Mhm.
sequel, and it's now Darth Vader's fucking grandkid who's fucking up the universe. It's like the whole. There's a reason it's called the Skywalker saga. It's about the fucking Skywalkers. But if you say that Luke and Leia aren't Skywalkers, they're just random people in the forest, that fucks up the entire series.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. This is the Strode saga, and they fucked it up.
They did. They did. No, this is definitely I would argue yes that it is on that level of like Luke and Leia and Vader in terms of like how well it's known in pop culture that like Michael and Laurie are siblings and to it's ballsy to remove that plot element and we don't think it's for the better. Some of the purists of course like we said before that like yeah, well John Carpenter his original vision was only to be an anthology. They didn't expect to explain all. Sure, but the second one was still really good. And to
Yeah, but
and
people say that, but I'm like, okay, but he left after the first movie. Halloween 2 is still good, and he barely had any involvement. H2O, still the best movie of the franchise. John Carpenter had no involvement. Like, yeah, his original vision, but he didn't stick around to see that vision through. Like, Wes Craven hates all the Nightmare on Elm Streets besides the first one and New Nightmare. Spoiler alert: New Nightmare is not that good, and that was all Wes Craven's vision.
I actually thought earlier, like imagine a new nightmare, but like in a universe where it was only like the first movie, like with all that like all those fans and stuff, and like um Nancy getting interviewed everywhere. Would that even make any sense if it only existed in a universe where that one movie
It
only
wouldn't.
existed?
It wouldn't be. To think of it this way: if you took away Halloween 2, 3, 4, 5, and Freddy's Dead, there would not be a New Nightmare because yes, Wes Craven's first one was amazing. That's a great kickoff. Part two, lackluster, but it kept the story going. 3, 4, and 5, and Freddy's Dead were the biggest movies of the entire franchise. That's when like there were rock stars were making songs about Freddy. Freddy had toys. Freddy had all types of merchandise. Freddy had a TV series. That all came from the third movie, the fourth movie, and the fifth movie, and on part of the sixth movie. So you
Damn.
had that popularity of Freddy because of those movies, and then you would have ignored all of those and you'd be like, okay, we're only gonna focus on the first one. But it's like, no, the reason we love Freddy is because of 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now you're telling me that you hate those movies, and because you personally hate them, you're gonna ruin them. That's kind of what they did. Because John Carpenter didn't really want to do two, and had no involvement in H2O. We're supposed to just make them obsolete. No, they were good movies that he set it up, and then other people came in and made it better.
They did.
But I think that's all I gotta say. H2O did it better. H2O had more meat, more gravity, more. There are more stakes involved with H2O. Like there was
Agreed.
something there. 2018 is just void of all of that. Mm,
No, yeah, I agree. I agree. I'm with you there. I prefer the H2O movie and the storyline better than 2018.
yep. Well, that's going to conclude our episode today, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Uh, Next episode will be us reviewing Halloween Kills. So hope you guys are ready for that. It will be full of spoilers, so beware before you tune in. Thank you guys. This is Haddonfield Horror Podcast. The Haddonfield Horrors Podcast is a Letters to Media production.
Should we do an intro?